What is up? Hello. Hi, there we go. What's up? How's everybody doing? Welcome. All right. Well, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This tournament is happening. Okay, wait. Why are my controls? There we go. Okay. And I did recreate this layout using my own colors and logo and stuff like that, just because one, it's visually easier to understand, and there wasn't a guns up layout available. So there are a few differences that I want to talk about this just really quick. Oh, that is good to know that does not work very well. But a few things to note is that this bunker right here is actually adjusted slightly. So on the actual layout, this bunker is shifted up a little bit farther to somewhere. Why can't I draw? What is happening? I had this issue last time, but this bunker shifted up here, and it didn't seem intentional, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna go with my assumption that it's supposed to be on the line, because when you set up the layout, it's gonna have a lot of variance if you don't do that. So that is my assumption. I'm actually just gonna do a quick reload real quick just to make sure that this is all gonna work. What's up, Muff God? Devin, Brian. Hey, Sleepy Invaders, how are you? What a unique layout. Yeah, this layout's going to be awesome. Okay, so let's do what we always do, where we walk the back line and see what shots exist. First of all, I am super excited for the Big X to return and for the Mini X's of the corner to return. One of my favorite tournaments of all time had this X in the corner on the snake side of the field, so I love that bunker. But and it was just a regional tournament too. So as is all like typical with a Big X in the middle, you definitely have a shot on either side of these Aztecs on the Dorito and Snake side of the field. The X should be as centered as possible, by the way. I did as best as I could, so you know there's going to be a little bit of margin of error in my layout compared to your field, or rather the tournament itself. So just take that into account. But there is a shot off the break. This is going to be an incredibly difficult shot to hit. I don't think anybody's going to die on this shot, so just be aware of that. You can certainly apply pressure to them if they try to come over the top or go beyond that bunker, but I would not I would probably not waste my paint shooting here. I would just shoot here, because I don't think you're going to hit anybody, because like literally it's like 1-2 and you're here. So if we keep running out, then obviously the shot from that that tall wedge is there. If you keep going out, pretty well blinded from a lot of things, except here's another new gap. So again, from the start box, you have a really solid gap shooting somebody trying to run to the, I guess, the Dorito corners to our right, to the Dorito corner, and then out to this Mini X. You have a little bit of a shot from this spot as well. That shot is definitely there. So if you're thinking that somebody's going to go to the corner, maybe you shoot for this instead. But, and this is, these angles are going to be identical on the other side of the field, right? So we actually might have a pretty simple layout review video here for you guys, which is fine, because I know some people don't love that it takes like an hour. Ooh, look at that inside Dorito highway. Ooh, that's cool. Okay, so get to the corner then. You actually can be pressured from the Aztec on the Dorito side while you get there. Now, for those of you who are newish to paintball, have never played a layout with these Mini X's, they are quite unique and very fun. And the biggest danger to them, there's two dangers in my opinion. The first is that you are constantly threatened by whatever's going on the snake side. And you can see in this layout in particular, if they are anything past this first snake knuckle, they could even shoot you if you're playing too sloppy from that first snake bunker. So just be aware of that. You do have to play into these bunkers, okay? You usually have to live behind your gun. Not usually. Many times you have to live behind your gun on this little angle here, and it is best if you can get low to actually playing this spot of the bunker as opposed to trying to play this spot of the bunker. Now, you certainly can do that because you can block out your hopper by doing this, but just understand that like the lower you can go, the safer you usually are. But these bunkers are crazy. I would not be surprised. I'm having a hard time getting the field to click. Okay. I would not be surprised, given the degree of variance that you might see at the field, if there is some kind of blind shot from corner to corner over these Doritos that would land here. in this zone on this bunker. So be aware of that. But the other thing, yeah, I can't click. It seems to want to only interact with bunkers. But be also aware that if you stand up over the top, you have some shot options here as well. Again, there you could also shoot them as they're trying to. This is a way you could regain dominance of the wire. You also could challenge this juice box on the Dorito side. Shots here and there on the Doritos as well. But again, just be aware that if you try to do this and they are in the snake, you are going to get roasted. So unless, again, there's a bunker that's not going to be like, one thing that would change that is if this juice box that's right in front of us came backwards. I don't know why it would. That would just be way too close. But man, this is insane. Bunker options for 3-man, please. You guys always ask me 3-man. If you haven't seen my 3-man strategy guide video, watch it. The rules do not change. The rules for every layout doesn't change. I can talk about it briefly, but they really don't change. Looking then at this gap, straight heads up battle. Pretty small window, to be honest. Like if you two were the widest people on these juice boxes, it'd be pretty easy to put them in and then make this move right away. But now let's see. What's cool about this layout is this is kind of a resurgence, like people have already said in the comment section. This is kind of a resurgence of like a PSP standard layout. You have a true tape, a true wire on the snake side, it's not really a true wire on the Dorito side, but you have bunkers that can control that wire very successfully. And so it's a very like wrap and go, put the guy in front of you and move. And then the middle has a ton of shots on everything. And what that ends up meaning is that the middle has to make a choice on to which side they want to punish, which side they want to shoot, or how they want to react to a certain situation. So, for example, because the middle can shoot everything, it means that the middle has to make a choice based on the calls that they're hearing where they want to shoot. But that also means that you have to act as a wide guy, like a 1 or a 2. You have to act as though the middle is looking your way, and that means you have to check it off, or you have to know that the paint's not coming your way, right? There are some moves you can make that if you're explosive enough, you don't have to worry about the middle, but otherwise you always need to worry about it. So again, the stand-up wedge is something to worry about. The Aztec that's on the Dorito side is something to worry about. So far, those are proving to be like really strong bunkers right now. And again, the gaps are just massive. Like you've got, there's a lot of gaps. They're not massive, but there's a lot of gaps, right? You have, again, 2 angles in which the Aztec can shoot the Dorito 1 player trying to move from this juice box into this first baby Dorito, right? If the corner guy tried to make a move out of this to going down the wire, again, same sort of gap. The advantage to this is that you can see if the paint is coming your way really safely to not, then go into that paint. Other options are, so then if you come in here, shoot at him, either get him to flinch, go on the wire, or then take this inside route. You can either punch into the baby Dorito, you can go straight into this Dorito 1, we'll call it, or you can go into the juice box and take maybe this inside Dorito route, which is kind of crazy. So let's say, for example, man, this layout is getting me jazzed up, dude. So let's say, for example, this was their configuration, and then you put this dude in, you put this guy in, so he's not going to flinch. Well, now all of a sudden, you have a pretty solid, especially if the guy's in the baby Dorito or on the wire on the outside, now you have a pretty solid highway route without really anybody seeing you, as long as you blind this guy out. Again, assuming the middle's not looking at you. So that's pretty cool. Lots of stuff to see on the inside. We'll have to actually check off the snake here, because in a situation like this, the snake has returned as the king side of the field, very likely, because in most cases where it's a true snake wire, it extends for a long period of time, and it's very equal throughout, right? There's no big gaps or anything like that. If your snake, if you control the snake wire and you're able to get down the snake, you will start destroying Dorito players without really them being able to do anything, right? Like, for example, if you were in, I guess it had to be, that's kind of like the 50 snake. So this would be a difficult thing to do. But if you're in this juice box, that 50 snake is already, I guess it's technically like a 40 snake. This guy is already blasting your pack, right? That's pretty crazy. Usually in NXL layouts, you have to get to their snake side to just get like free kills on the back line. But this is like, that's insane. Again, the corner bunker is even more exposed to this. Getting up into the baby Dorito, you definitely have to worry about shots from that same 40 bunker. So far that 40 is like really, really strong. I mean, obviously, right? snake side or Dorito side tower is pretty safe until they get to your snake side. So that's nice. And then getting into, you're actually safe here if you can't find the shot. So that's one thing to note, you snake guys, that you don't always have to go into the knuckles and play from there. Sometimes you can especially float back and then come up over the top, and then there's that free kill onto the Dorito guy. So you do expose yourself to other angles if you do that, though, which is the concern. So if you do back up and then come up over the top here, you do expose yourself to a lot of shots that can come from people in these positions. So let's continue with the Dorito side. Jeez, we haven't even walked the snake side back line. I mean, it's identical, but it's just I'm getting too jazzed about this layout. Let's look at the wire then really quick. So again, they might kick this bunker out a little more to make it so that this gap is a little bit bigger, but I followed exactly the layout as best as I could. So otherwise that shot is there, it's just really small, so we shall see. Otherwise the corner's proving to not be super good on the Dorito side. I mean, it's okay, but wrapping, then again, everything in the middle is a concern. If the widest guy is in the baby, then you've got a huge problem. Otherwise, if the widest guy's in this juice box, then you can blind him out completely, getting up to the 40 Dorito, we'll call it. But again, now you've got their snake 2, let's call it, their snake 2 that is shooting at you, and you're all the way in the 40. So you could certainly survive that if you got really low into this bunker. You definitely could survive that, but you just have to be really, really careful. A lot of cross-field shots, they're going to start coming in from the snake side, which means that you snake guys, if you aren't able to control the wire, or rather if you have a guy behind you that's controlling the wire, and you don't need to stop somebody from moving down the snake, you definitely want to look on the inside and just start blasting gaps. Like, definitely just start blasting a bunch of gaps. Let's see. I noticed the snake side. I see even if you're pushing up the bunkers, the snake side gives a wide open shot. Not roasted. Oh, okay. Beef in the house. What's up? So yeah, snake, shoot a lot of crossfield gaps. Okay. Let's go then to their Dorito side, which is usually where we get all of our free kills. Well, first of all, is there free kills on the Dorito here? So I think that mini wedge, if anybody dared play that, is going to die in this Dorito. Let's call it Dorito 1, because we'll call that baby. So I think the Dorito 1 can even kill that wedge relatively easily. I mean, it's not a free kill, but like definitely the Dorito 3, you're killing that wedge guy for sure. That's the first free kill. Second free kill is the tower. I don't think the tower can survive. I'm not going to even really consider anybody playing the can as a real option, because I feel like a lot of the bunkers, and like especially the PSP that were like in this middle-ish zone right here, a lot of these bunkers outside of the X were usually leapfrog bunkers into the X. So I don't really see a situation in which somebody actually plays this spot, because on a layout like this, you're the first guy to die the moment that any of the front players decide to look on the inside of the field. There's just like no way you're going to survive. So if we want to consider that a free kill, then the can is definitely a free kill. I mean, the can is a free kill at this Dorito. The can is a free kill at this Dorito. I mean, the can, I guess, could look your way, right? So if the can came here and looked this direction, you could kill that guy. But like, man, I feel like your pack is just going to get blown up, and there's no options for you to get out of here if you were in trouble, right? So I feel like that's a dead spot to go into. We didn't look at this tower. Let's look at this tower, and then we'll continue down the Doritos really quick. Sorry, it's a bit sporadic. So I mean, you have a ton of pressure onto the corner. You can actually contain them entirely from moving out, because you can see both sides of it. So this is a pretty strong bunker to respond if teams are going to the corner a lot, especially as a number 3, if you're not going to push up to the X, which again, in a lot of PSP layouts, people just pushed up to the X. Like, it ended up just being that was the better move. So you can't see the juice box directly, but you can definitely contain the gap that they would have to move through to push up the Doritos, except if they blinded out the juice box to this Dorito 2 move. So if they blinded this out, that's the only thing you can't see. Otherwise, you've got pretty good visual coverage going into any of these bunkers, any of that kind of stuff. Let's continue. You have good stoppage on the Dorito 1 moving out. You can't see the baby Dorito to the Dorito 1 move either, but you can see a lot of what's going on in the Dorito. This essentially is telling me that this is a gunfight heavy layout. Because the teams that, or maybe not, maybe, you know, in my mind back in the day, this would have been a gunfight heavy layout where people just challenge and shoot at each other, and then as soon as you put somebody in, you move. With how people play modern paintball, it'll be hard to say, but I feel like there's so much that you can shoot at from every bunker that it really is a matter of like surprising somebody or getting to the flinch, and then if you know where they're at, actually shooting directly at them to put them in, which just naturally means that there's going to be, I guess gunfighting may be not the right term in that situation, because you don't have to gunfight them to move, but you do have to snap at them directly. Like there's not a lot of zone control in this layout so far. Okay, let's go into their Dorito. Their Dorito, first free kill for sure is this Aztec on the snake side. Probably can't dig out the tall wedge. If you take a pause, depending on whatever route you take, actually you could just low wrap. Depending on what's going on the Dorito side, you probably have a free kill onto the snake side corner. So, I mean, as is expected, getting into the 40-yard line is going to give you a lot of kills. And then getting into their Dorito 3, this is a free kill, almost for sure. Again, the tower's still a kill. Snake 1, again, this is a situation where like you have to hit that shot if you want to survive. Otherwise, you're going to have to live behind your gun. And then you have like this really interesting channel that just goes straight into their back Aztec that you can see. So let's go then to the snake side, and then we'll look at the middle. So snake side routes, again, are going to be the same thing. So this first gap I probably wouldn't shoot at. Second gap, if you wanted to shoot a runner, you could. I mean, if you're going to shoot a runner, I'd probably shoot wider than this. But like if I'm in this situation and if I knew I was playing against lower division opponents or people that just had like sloppy form, I would still probably shoot this at this bunker, but I would definitely shoot here first, and then I would shoot here afterwards. So I would shoot for the containment, and then I would shoot for anybody who comes out to this bunker tall over the top to then, kill anybody playing loose. So that's what I would do. Because again, if you're thinking you're a tall guy, like, and you also have to be aware that people might shoot back at you. So it might be the case that the number 2s on either side of the field, I'm gonna have to see what I can do about that. But the number 2s on either side are going to, it might be possible, or might be a situation in which they run out here and then they both put their guns back at the home. Which the biggest issue with that is now you're pinching out the only guy who can really play in the back, right? Because I would imagine a standard layout is going to be something like this, but that maybe not the case, right? Like you could definitely send somebody to the corner, you could send somebody here, and you could send somebody here, and make a snake side push or something, or you could do the exact opposite, right? Let me check a text message real quick. One second. My brother-in-law's here and needs some allergy medicine, so I gotta go do that in just a second. Okay, so continuing out to this route, you actually have angles here. Interesting. Oh, here's the angle. Okay, I was like, it should be mirrored. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. Okay, here we are. So again, same sort of angles. Again, getting out to this snake side. I don't know, for some reason I feel like I want to look at it still because it's just different to my brain. But again, same sort of pressure you're going to be feeling from that Aztec in the back, and same sort of situation from the tower as well. I really think that tower is pretty strong, especially if you start getting kills on people going into the snake or into the Dorito. That tower is a really, really strong containment bunker. Because, I mean, my goodness, look at this. Like, this gap is massive to have to run through. I mean, any of these gaps are insane. Dude, I'm so excited to watch this. This is awesome. Okay. Let's look at the snake then. So it's really hard to say, like, there are so many people who can shoot you as a snake player trying to get in here. This guy can shoot you. 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 This guy can drop blind shots on you. So you're going to have to read the paint. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's see. In my opinion, most people will break out heavy shooters from the middle risk a runner out to the Dorito side. Big wedge will keep the snake side lane the entire time. Better to react off the sweet spotting and push up the middle more and kick out sideways. I agree. Yeah, we'll look at the breakouts in a second. We're not quite there yet. So getting into the snake one, we established really, really strong pressure applied to the Dorito corner, especially if you're kind of a bigger guy. That's definitely a threat to you, depending on how how forward on the Dorito side tape you play. You can definitely apply pressure to the juice box, and definitely apply pressure to the Dorito side tower, but obviously the opposite is true. They could apply pressure back to you, so just be careful of that. The mini wedge here, I don't think anybody's going to play that. Mini wedge is a drop shot either onto you or onto them, so be careful of that. Over the top sort of stuff, you do have a shot onto the home, again, with maybe some degrees of variance here, but if you did decide to apply pressure onto the home for whatever reason, that shot is there. I'm not saying you should do that. And then, dude, I'm so stoked for this. And then if you wanted to get into the snake 2, we'll call it right away. There's nothing that's going to stop you. I don't think the paint, maybe actually, depends on how tall they are and how small you are. So I think you can go underneath this guy's paint pretty successfully and pretty consistently, because there's nothing that's kicking you out farther than this. So if you just crawl, get really low, you can go all the way into this knuckle probably without that tower shooting at you. And there's definitely no one else who can hit you. So, I mean, it's paintball. Paint can go all sorts of ways, but I think that this paint's going to be above you from the Aztec, especially if he's trying to hit you. Which, actually saying that now, all of this is kind of like, I think you can go underneath it, but it depends on how tall they are. So you just got to be careful. Juice box guy could also get a drop shot into you if you're playing too tall. But even if you're not, he might be the one that can actually hit you in your pack pretty consistently. So I would not want to go through this gap if that juice box guy was just dumping paint into this little spot here. So just be aware of that, like in that spot right here. Getting to this first snake knuckle. Again, see, you have this first snake knuckle has a ton of pressure onto the Dorito guy. Tons of pressure onto the Dorito guy, and you're relatively safe, right? Like, obviously you can still take a ball and you get pressured immediately if they start shooting at you, but in terms of who is safest, you are definitely safer than this guy for sure. The challenge is going to be that if you're too wrapped up, if you're too concerned about what's going on crossfield to then let go of the wire, and you don't have a guy behind you who can contain that, then you're in trouble. So I would imagine that it'll be easier for people to get, usually in big gaps like this, usually, like, this is just anecdotal old information, but like usually in big routes like this that are hard to make off the break, which we'll see if it is, and it'll depend on your division. What people oftentimes will do is they'll try to take the corner first, and then they will wrap and control everything to then leapfrog a guy in on big gaps like this. So obviously you can take this off the break. Huge gap to have to run through, which really sucks, but otherwise I wouldn't be surprised if you see stuff like this, or stuff like this, or the ones here, the twos here. I would not want to see a leapfrog like that. You're too close to your guy. There's all the paint that he's taking, you're gonna run into. So if you find that you are in this situation, do not leapfrog behind them unless they have control, and like, no, there's no paint coming. I just don't see there being a reason to do this. Because you're just so close to each other. So going then into, obviously, true snake wire. Awesome. Going then into the snake 3. That corner guy is almost assuredly dead. You can drop paint onto the baby Dorito, I think that is. Yep. Drop painted the baby Dorito. Nothing else that's like super free, surprisingly, right? Like, again, you can see like these middle bunkers are just dead zones. Like you're just going to die if you're here. If you're in any one of these, you could probably drop a shot onto the tower guy if he's standing tall. So if you're playing Dorito side tower, maybe consider getting on your knees. I'm not sure that that's a bunker to play, but just something to point out. And then definitely the wedge guy you could challenge. But I don't even know if there's really any kills worth pausing for here. What's interesting is that if you scoot back, you've got more, like we showed on the Dorito side, you have a lot more angles of attack on the Dorito 3 or Dorito 2 and 3 from if you scoot back. But again, if you do that, you know, if you imagine that your gun is across the snake beam, your biggest concern is going to be that you get shot in the hopper by this guy, or just get shot in the gun by this guy if he's there, right? So if you're matched up, let's say there's some guy in the snake and in the corner. So like, just pretend that there's this and this. Then you can start doing those crossfield back off shots. Because all you have to really worry about is whoever the middle guy is and if he's looking your way. But otherwise, if they're in this kind of situation, this guy's going to blow your loader off. So, okay, getting into their snake side, definitely kill that Dorito 2. This guy's for sure almost. I mean, he could still hide, but he's getting pinched really hard. Tower guy is dead for sure on the Dorito side. Aztec guy is now dead. So it's essentially the same angles, right? If you get to their side of the field on either side, you're going to shoot the opposite side's Aztec. So just to illustrate that from over the top, if you get to this side, this dude's dead. If you get to this side, this dude's dead. Unsurprisingly, right? It's a symmetrical map. Cool. Man, I would be so surprised if we see very many 5 alive situations. This is crazy. So then should Dorito Corner be focused on Snake 3? No, you don't want to send a guy wide to the corner shooting crossfield, because he doesn't have to actually challenge you. And if you're preoccupying yourself with shooting a guy that doesn't have to fight you, then you're just wasting your time. Dorito Corner will likely be wrapping the entire time. Yeah, the Dorito Corner is going to not want to do anything on the inside. It's super, super hard to survive. So you're literally going to want to play in this spot right here. You want to try to blind. Again, you have to be very careful at a blind to blind, like corner to corner shot if it's there. But this is the spot you want to play in on the corner. And you have a decent amount of protection blinded to you from the Doritos, from this baby Dorito. So you are going to be playing a bit on the outside of this thing right here, is what I would suspect. So going to be shooting, you can see, like, if you, depending on, again, the tolerances of the actual tournament, you can apply pressure to the guy here who might be playing over the top. He might be trying to do something on the inside of the field. If you put some paint right here, you might be surprised that you'll hit a loader because it bounces or something. You have a little bit of zone control here. You have a direct fight that you could have with this guy. You have a bit of a blind, depending on how high or low you go. You could definitely see that center wedge guy. So you have a lot of productivity you can have if you wrap, but you want to avoid whatever's going on the snake side in this situation for sure. And it looks to be that the best way to do that, like if we were to draw the angle of influence, that essentially leaves, let's draw it. Well, I guess it's really this, but this is kind of high. So yeah, because this needs to be drawn down this way. This is like this is the spot you have to work with. Is the outermost corner of this little bunker here. So definitely try to and don't do anything over the top too frequently. Like that's kind of your first. If you're gonna do that, you can do that at the very beginning and maybe establish some kind of, and you could either get intel or maybe get some, get a cheeky kill very quickly. But like you really, really want to be careful about doing this over the top thing too much, because again, you just expose yourself entirely to whatever's going on the snake side. Like I'm so exposed right now trying to just shoot somebody on the Doritos from the snake. So let's look at the middle then. So the shots are going to be the same on either side of the field. There's no real reason. There's nothing really to like point out here other than the fact that you can see that it's up to you which side you want to shoot, right? So you can shoot the Dorito side, you can shoot the snake side. I agree with Dan. I would probably shoot towards the snake side the entire time, mostly because it is much more hazardous to lose your snake side and they have a snake presence than it is for you to lose your Dorito side and they have a Dorito presence, right? If you have a solid snake presence, you can contain the Doritos. If you have a solid Dorito side, you cannot contain the snake because you can't see the snake. So that means that I would probably have your number 3, or whoever has the most solid shot. I would have somebody shooting for the snake runner every single time. Oops. Trying to get that full screen thing to go away. So I would probably shoot for here and see how that works. And if it's not landing, then I would just go a little bit wider. It really is not, I mean, you could do either, to be honest. You might actually, well, the shot is pretty much the same, but let me see which would be easier. This shot is definitely harder. This shot is smaller. So I would probably just aim for this one right here if you're going to shoot for the snake runner. Again, the difference is going to be that for you to hit somebody, there's kind of 3 angles that somebody could go, right? So we'll just call this 1, 2, and 3. And even though they all cross through the same shot, you know, my paint is going through the same line the entire way. The difference between shooting somebody here versus even a snake, I could even draw the snake a little bit differently. I could draw the snake to go like this versus this versus this. And those are pretty similar. I actually don't think those are meaningfully different. So there's not probably 4, but there's at least 3. This is supposed to be a 3. This is supposed to be a 4. So even though one stream of paint goes through all 4 of these, we'll call it 4, all 4 of these gaps, the difference between somebody sliding in close and low versus taking kind of a loose L route into the tower is different. The difference between shooting somebody who's, you know, hugging this juice box into the snake, or even taking this inside route versus somebody going to the corner is different. So the shot is there. You can't really afford to like fan it, because then you just distribute your chances of hitting somebody like across all of the angles, and it's really bad. So I would just try to get really comfortable with finding out, like, scout, what is the most common route people are taking going into the snake? If you had to take the route into the snake, what would you think is the most comfortable route? If it were me, I would definitely not go in front of the Aztec, because I'm already super, super exposed. So I would always go around the Aztec. That would be the first thing. If I wanted to take a straight route into it, it would be this, which obviously my chances of getting shot here are pretty high. And then if I go here, they're still pretty high, but I could be low. I could be low at this point in diving. So that's an option. Or I could go this way, taking the wider route. And yeah, so I would say that there is a bit of a difference between taking this route into the snake versus taking this route into the snake. You're probably going to dive and go, you could even go even wider than this. You could take this route and dive versus this route. Those are different routes, and they're meaningfully different. So if you can kind of figure out which route people are taking more often than not, and trying to adjust your paint accordingly, that's what I would do. And I would still probably make that decision in this gap right here. That's probably where I would be putting my paint. So your first 2 to 3 balls, maybe. I still think you have to be pretty accurate depending on how fast people are. I would think that you have at most a 3-ball failure. You know, the first 2 balls you could probably miss. That third ball needs to be on target to hit somebody through there. If not, your second ball needs to be on target. So if you find that that's too tough, then I would shift it out here, and that might change it by 1 to 2 balls maybe. But the issue is going to be that that's a smaller gap to shoot through. So, all right, now that we spent all that time on that. Again, you have really solid wraps. So if you shoot for the runner and immediately wrap on the guy that's behind him, you can definitely threaten him if he decides to stop short there. You also notice that there's a really solid dead zone. There's a really, really solid dead zone to play right here that you can't see from the home at all. So what does that look like? Let me just imagine. Okay, so that dead zone's right here. Interesting. So here's all the stuff that you can see in this dead zone, which does mean that you could actually play this can blinding out. So let's say for example, we'll just keep the heads up display. Let's say, for example, they send a guy here and they risked a guy in the snake, and you took this route. Dude, you're blinded from this guy forever, and you have a really, really solid angle of attack from here, and then you can even dive without anybody seeing you. So let's say, for example, you killed Man, that's a really deadly 1-2 punch. I'm just looking. I'm just looking at it now. So let's say, for example, you sent a guy to the corner. Okay, you sent a guy to the corner. Let's do this. I like the 3D view better than the over the top. It's really bright. So let's say you send a guy here and you send a guy to this route. Okay, and let's say they did this strat and you tiger one. And then you dive. This guy's not going to be able to see you. You dive underneath here, and then you wrap and just contain. This guy then freely gets into the snake and goes all the way, dude. There's just no stopping that. There's just no stopping that. Because look, like as soon as I'm here and we tigered that wide guy, the guy can't see me. He literally cannot see me. And then I come here and boom. Bah, 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 bah. Dude, guys. This layout is freaking crazy. This is awesome. I'm so curious to know what the Dorito side is now because I didn't even think about this. Those huge blinds into these spots, okay? You also have a bit of an inside challenge if you wanted. I'm not sure why you would do that, but if you find that people are delaying off the box a lot, this is kind of a creative way of punishing that while protecting yourself. So if, for example, like this is such an easy step out, right? There's no reason. So if they decided, I don't know why they would do this, but if they decided to, let's say, double stack the home, the number 3 is shooting Dorito way, the number 2 is shooting this way, and they send their 1 just out somewhere, and he delays and then gets into this bunker. Well, now all of a sudden, this coming out here and using the pins as a blind gives me like full dominance over this guy without him being able to do anything. And I can contain that. I can hold that all the way up here. And I can look on the inside and the Doritos can't see me until they get past that baby. So like I can hold this inside shot for a while. Now, if he's still in the back center, I can use the pins. Again, I can go low. If we're making the assumption that the number 1 guy plays on the outside of his bunker, I can get to this pin and now all of a sudden I can blow this dude's loader off if he's still shooting up this gut or whatever, right? Otherwise, if he doesn't, then I can get here and I can contain this spot. You know, if he's still shooting past you this way, I've got obviously massive containment here. This is, oh my gosh, dude, this is so crazy. If they're not in the snake, dude, there's no shot people are seeing you. Okay, you get here, you go low, you can set a trap forever. This means that the 50 has to be contested every single point. You have to push the 50. Because this is just so insane. And usually what this means is that teams oftentimes, I mean, you can see that the angles make sense, right? Like we get kind of the meme of the angles, but like that means that until you dig the guy out of this spot, you cannot cross these lines. Okay. Unless you just miss your shot and you're bad, but like it is that pin blinds all of you to be super safe. And then the only reaction to that is to just punch through the middle, go underneath the X, whatever the case is. So it isn't to say that you're completely safe, because the natural consequence of this is that there's oftentimes like shots you can get in. So if we draw these same lines, there's shots you can get in on the X in the center here that you can shoot somebody's foot, you can shoot somebody's pack, whatever. And I think that with a layout like this, Mike Hinman would absolutely say you guys have to have eyes on the middle, because those are where the shots come in from that dig you out of it if you're not going to just run and trade out with the guy. So these inside shots, like this guy can shoot it, this Aztec, it's going to be the same on the other side of the field. I can't, these boxes on these bunkers make it really hard to click outside of them. If you go even wider than that, let's look here. So interesting that the tower has a pretty decent shot onto this. And even farther than that, sorry, one sec. The Dorito 1, look at that, dude. That is a huge, huge gap to shoot. Is that the Dorito 1? Let's look at that. That's the baby Dorito, dude. That's the baby Dorito. Jeez, guys, I could spend 2 hours talking about this layout. So, so the other thing that this layout tells us is that you have to make a decision. Do you want to cover your wide? Do you want to cover the wide safety nets, or do you want to punish a middle, like off the break route? Because if you take the middle off the break and your opponents send guys wide and those guys run with their guns up, which was back in the day a very common thing in the PSP, like heavy guns up, even though there's massive gaps, right? You don't need to worry about the fact that there are massive gaps, because it's a matter of you will increase your survivability at this point by shooting back at the people that are shooting at you, right? Because it's either going to cause them to flinch, dodge, or you're just going to trade. So even though you died, you at least got a body for that. But like, if I were to imagine being a 3 and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go up the middle and I'm going to do it on the snake side. Well, I'm running out. Okay, cool. The Dorito side can't see me. The snake side can't see me except for this first gap. But that means that this first spot is like heavy contested zones, right? The number 2s, if they decide to do that. So if for example, the number 3s, the number 2s decide to go here, and then they decide to just shoot these spots, and then opposite is the number 3 goes here on that side. Like, that is just going to be so much bloodshed in the middle of the field. So just be aware that that if you don't see people going wide, it might be that they're going up the middle. It's possible for them to go wide and up the middle. You know, it's really hard to say. You just want to minimize your risk, unless you're playing against people that can't stop the bleeding, right? If you're playing against people that can't actually do anything about how much risk you're taking and punishing you for it, then you don't have to worry about that. So okay, let's look at the snake side inside shots. So the juice box maybe could shoot you. The tower can shoot you for sure. What about the snake 1? Okay, snake 1 still has a very similar angle onto you. A little less so, but the snake 1 can definitely shoot your feet. So it might be, guys, that when you get to your first bunkers on either side of the field, whether that be the baby, if you go to the baby, or the snake 1, you definitely want to look for I would just shoot here. Just, why not? You know, no harm. And you can wrap farther. You can wrap farther and shoot anybody trying to bump up to the middle, you know, after the breakout, because you have such a huge gap that you can see through, right? Like if I were to imagine this as a number 3 running up here, I now have to start worrying about the snake guy right now. I have to start worrying about the baby Dorito guy like right here. So huge gaps. Okay. If we look at the snake side hold, the snake side containment, it's big. It's not as big as the Dorito. So, but it's definitely something that you can punish people for. And you obviously have really good zone control behind that in these bunkers. Oops. I guess I'll just draw a box with the line tool. So, geez, that is crazy. Let's look at the Dorito side gap, and then we can do some breakouts here, which really, like, dude, this is a layout that I actually want to just tell my team to like just play paintball, dude. Just go out there and play paintball. So, okay, same sort of inside gap. Again, if they delayed from the home, you could punish it on the inside Aztec shot right here. I don't think they will delay from the home, but it's possible. You obviously also have a ton of shots onto somebody who decides to come up on the Dorito side to the 50. But again, if we use that same blind, that same gap, again, the biggest concern is going to be the guy in front of you, right? I actually think this dead zone is going to be played quite a bit. So you have to definitely put shots straight heads up, and then you either have to back off into the can to not die. But the cool thing about this dead zone is that you have a lot of exit routes. So you can, I'll just draw this line here. In this whole plan, you can bail here, you can stop here, or again, you can go here, or you can go here. So you have a lot of different, and you could even go here too. So you have a lot of bailouts in this one dead zone that a number 2 can run through. And the same is probably true for the snake guy as well. A little less so to some extent, but no, because even still, like, yeah, this snake side route is really strong. Like, you're still going to die to the big gap that you're primarily concerned about, but you have a really solid. So again, the same sort of things. You know, that's a decent route into that. Gives you lots of options, and it allows you to have your gun up. So if, for example, this was the number 1 that was doing all of this stuff, you could have your number 2 right here, and the number 1 has his gun up the whole time. And depending on if he makes it to the snake or if he goes somewhere in the middle, then the number 2 can either go here or he can punch up the middle, right? So if, for example, you decided to take this route, then your number 2 could come here if you wanted. I'm not saying you should, just if you wanted. Is there any reason that we would be doubling these Aztecs? Is there any inside shots that are worth that? Not really. I mean, the inside shot is to shoot the center runner up the middle. Yeah, I mean, it's paintball. People could double up that bunker. I would not double up the center wedge, probably. I think you'll get trapped here really easily. And then, what was the last thing? Oh, the Dorito side routes. So, obviously, coming out to the tower, lots of pretty traditional, tower control on a Dorito side of the field. Nothing too crazy here. You cannot see the baby Dorito at all. So you'd have to be worried about that. You can bully the corner pretty safely, I would say. And you can obviously control the zone into the Doritos. If I go inside, lots of blinds. So again, if the middle wedge guy is not looking at us, I can go low. If he's still at the Aztec, if the number 2 is still at the Dorito side Aztec, I can go low and kind of gain intel here. Snake would be a problem if they're in the snake 1, but no one else would be. And then I can either choose to go up the middle, which is a cool route, or I could choose to break off and go here. But again, now you're starting to expose yourself to big routes. If I decided to play the can, I'm not saying you should. If I decided to play the can, you're going to have to live behind your gun if you do this on the Dorito side. If you decide to just give up the Doritos, well, now your back is exposed to the snake. So I would not play this bunker. If you go to this mini wall, you don't really have great options. Like, you definitely have the ability to like bait this gap, but I just feel like if you're here, somebody in the snake's going to just shoot you in the back. Like, if you're going to be here, you may as well shoot the snake, but it's just, you don't have great angles to do that. If you keep wrapping on the inside, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably only go here if you can, like, actually, I wouldn't even go here on the Dorito side. I feel like the snake side's the only one that you could do this with. Because if you get here, and there's, well, the Dorito one is still a problem. I was going to say, if you get here and they're in the baby, then you're fine. But these are bunkers that I think are just really good to use as the heads up blind. Like, you know, when you're fighting each other in this little dead zone, I think that's what they're good for. And I think that they're good for this inside route if you decide to blind and go that way. But all right. I apologize for how white it is, because my logo's white, and so it's bleeding out into everything. But here we go. So, yeah, I don't even know how to do breakouts for a layout like this, to be honest with you. I mean, because anything you do, you could mimic on either side, right? So we really only need to talk about like one side of the field. So I think this inside route is pretty solid. I think the bailout is probably pretty consistently here. Again, the other option is to go this way. So I'm not sure what if A then B play would be for that. I'm not sure if there's a read and react that makes sense for you to do that with. Definitely, if you Tiger 1 on one side of the field, this is a really solid response, and you just wrap and just lock everything down. The biggest concern is going to be that somebody shoots your feet. So you just got to be really careful about that. Jeez Louise, dude. Well, I do think that your home guy shoots. I think somebody, maybe it's not the home, I think he always shoots for the snake in this zone. Almost consistently, almost the entire time. I think he shoots through that zone. The snake side's important enough that I'm not sure I want anybody doing that inside route on the snake. So I'd probably do this if it were me. I'd probably do this. I would have my number 2 play the float. And I'll just draw this as the box. So if I don't get any kills on the Dorito side, I'm going to stay at the tower and play heads up. If I do get a kill, I'm going up to the 50 and then locking down the Dorito side. That's how I would play that spot if I was the number 2. The number 1 in the Dorito. That means that my number 2 needs to be here probably. But then that means, you know, I'm telegraphing the same dead zone every single point, which is going to force more people to play this Aztec here and just shoot heads up. I mean, my number 1 in the Dorito, I really don't like the Dorito corner. I don't think it's good. I think it has a purpose, but so far that's not obvious to me. And I feel like as soon as you get out of that corner, you're safer from the snake, and that's to me like a big deal on a layout like this because the snake is so strong. So for me, I would probably, I'd probably just send to one of these two. Preferring obviously to get to the baby Dorito. If you can get to the baby Dorito every point, I would do that, especially if the home guy's looking snake way. So get to this bunker if you can, get to one of these two, and then play heads up and try to get downfield. This is probably your safest bunker from the snake, by the way. So if you stop here, you're pretty exposed to the snake. If you stop here, you're just exposed to the Dorito side. So I would try to obviously get to the 40 Dorito as fast as you can. And then for the snake one, I mean, we're kind of risking 2 bodies right now, which sucks. But you have a few options. You could obviously go to the snake off break. I actually think this route's pretty safe. I don't know. I kind of feel like it is. Maybe not. No route into the snake is ever going to be safe, but if I had to pick one off the break, I probably wouldn't do this inside route. I feel like that's just an easy one to hit. So that's to me, the variation that you really put into where the number 2. So how I break down a layout is I feel like a lot of what dictates where I send my 1s is what my number 2s do, because whatever my number 2s do will dictate what room my number 3 has to work with and where my number 1s have to go to make those moves safe that my number 2s are wanting to do. So, there's an option where you send, it doesn't matter who it is, right? It could be the 1 or the 2 that does this, but, you do essentially the same dead zone read and react, but instead they go here or they go here, right? There's just so much read and react potential in this dead zone that it's really hard to like create a game plan based off of that. Because again, what do we want to accomplish? Like, where are they going? Do they tend to go to the middle? Like, if we can get that intel, then it will tell us what we should be doing in response to that. So it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't probably get too bogged down in the minutia of okay, our number 2's here and our number 1's here, because on a layout like this, it doesn't matter that much. But it definitely is important to know what our number 3 is going to do after the fact. And if your number 3 has room to work with, so for example, if we decided that the number 2 was going to do this and then kick out to the corner, and our number 1 was going to do the zone and get here, then our number 3 could play in this little spot and then get to this Aztec. It doesn't matter that much. It's just that having to go up into this bunker and then back around is kind of annoying. So depends on how seamless it is. But again, the snake could do kind of a similar sort of thing where you play this dead zone and you're read and reacting based on that. I still don't know how. I mean, the thing is, guys, if I got to this bunker off the break and nobody on the Dorito side knew that, it would be catastrophic for them. It's just that it's really hard to get to that bunker without nobody knowing it. Or for that matter, for the snake side, it'd be catastrophic for the snake side if we got Tiger 1, right? The challenge is going to be that it seems to be that these mini walls get punished on the opposite side of the field, which is not good, right? So it's pretty easy to dig out this guy from any one of these bunkers. Actually, it has to be this bunker right here. So if, typically speaking, this spot right here would be where you would go as a number 2 and then wrap on that side if you Tiger 1'd on that side of the field. If you killed somebody in the snake, you push up to the 40 or 50-ish on the snake side and then wrap. It's really strong. The problem is that on this layout, it's not as strong because it's equalized by whatever the Dorito does. So again, we'll see what the layout actually looks like at the tournament. I still think that probably the best answer is if you Tiger 1 on this side of the field, you go to the 50 and then you look for kills. That's probably your safest bet. I still think that you should try to do what you can to get into the snake off the break, and then your first job is to control the tape. Like, that's absolutely the first thing you should be doing. There's not a lot of free kills onto the snake right off the break, and there's not really anybody else who can stop the tape off the break except for you, unless somebody went to the corner. And in fact, did we look at the corner? How strong is the wire control? It's not there. You can't control the wire. So definitely you have to get somebody to the snake. I think this layout's probably going to be pretty basic in the sense that whoever has a guy in the snake that is uncontested wins the game, probably. So I would imagine that you just have to find the route to get your guy into the snake off the break, or prevent them from getting somebody in there while you're not getting there as well. But again, first order of business, get to the snake, control the wire, do that for the majority of the game. And then our number 3, or the guy who plays in the middle, doesn't really matter. Again, I could decide to put all of my weight on the snake side because that just wins so much. And if I were to do that, I would probably have my number 2 play this dead zone. I would have my number 3 play here, and I'd have my number 1 taking some kind of route into the snake, and then my number 2 read and reacts off of that. So for example, if it feels like it's unsafe to go to the middle, then I would just kick out here and play heads up while my number 3 works to get into the middle, and whatever route that looks like, right? He could do the same thing. He could take the same route in, doesn't matter. I think it's probably a little safer to do this off the break than it is for your 3 to do it, 20 seconds, 30 seconds in, because people will be established into their bunkers. They'll be looking for those kinds of moves. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like this, where the number 2 takes this route and then the number 3 goes here. And you've got your number 1. Actually, your number 1's going to be here. So this is what the breakout will look like. Doesn't really matter what you do on the Dorito side. You just have to be alive. So again, try to stay away from the corner if you can. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's really any value in doing more breakouts beyond that, because it's just going to be a duplication of the opposite side of the field. Because a lot of that dead zone stuff is what dictates where you go. Okay, let's see what the chat has to say. Yeah, the middle looks good to contain. Imagine the middle is going to be crazy battles. Are you going to navigate? Are you able to navigate with this model to see if you went to the X on the Dorito side and shoot under the X snake's way and vice versa? Shoot under it as you go there? Like this? Are you talking about like here? This cross gap? Is that what you're talking about? Let me know, Dan, and I'll take a look at it. At what snake cake can snake corner see someone moving up? Wait, at what snake cake can snake corner see when someone's moving up? Oh, good question. Let's find out. At no point can the snake corner see anybody moving down the snake wire, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, if they went low, you're not gonna see anybody, unfortunately. Man, that sucks. That's correct, right? That's really, really punishing. I'm just gonna pull up the picture real quick. WCPPL. We're almost done here. Yeah, that's right. I just was trying to see if it was that far out. Yeah, that's pretty rough, to be honest with you. So you can't see anything. I would definitely not send 2 people up the middle, Robbie. Definitely not. You wouldn't work out too well, in my opinion. Yeah, I would not do that. So Snakefront fights Snakefront in line. Otherwise, there is no way to stop Snake player moving forward. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, there is somewhat of a stop. So, like, for example, here you can dump a ton of paint right here, and it will threaten somebody in that position. It depends. The variable here is how tall you are and how big they are. So it isn't to say that this is a for sure hold, but this is definitely one I would look for. If you're in this spot and you're stuck and you can't get into the snake, I would absolutely be shooting that. There's no question in my mind. I would be shooting that forever until I can get into the snake and then get to the wire. So that would be the first hold-ish that you could see, maybe. The second is going to be in this spot. I think this one is less strong just because, I mean, again, it depends on how inflated the beams are, stuff like that. Dude, people, I'm live right now. One second. This spot is, and again, a variation of, or a variable of how tall you are, how big they are. You might be able to shoot a pack here. The thing is, you don't have to see them to kill them. And if you just dump an absurd amount of paint in this spot, it's going to make people feel very, very threatened, right? The ticking time bomb here is for the Dorito guy to get to the Dorito 4 or the Dorito 3, excuse me. Even if he gets to the Dorito 2, you're going to get some heat here, but you can definitely stay alive in that situation. But yeah, that's definitely, that looks to be the only spots that you can stop the snake from. Definitely can't here, definitely not there, definitely not here. So the juice box appears to be the best. If you're not in the snake, the juice box appears to be the best angle of attack, unfortunately. Let's see. Snake Tower should hold the snake. I hope. If you guys had the chance to walk the field and it looks like they can, then that's awesome. Hey, bro. Greetings from Dominican Republic. When am I coming? We had Mike Zupa here last week. We had an amazing time. Dude, Dominican Republic? Dude, I don't have the money to fly out there, but if somebody wants to message me and set up some kind of like clinic thing or whatever, I'd be happy to come out. You get to the X playing it, but not on the side of the X, but instead shooting under it across. Oh, we already looked at those, Dan. I'm sorry. That's why I was confused. We looked at these shots. So you can shoot somebody in the baby Dorito. They can shoot you. Definitely concern. Obviously, somebody in the tower on the Dorito side. So if you're snake looking Dorito way, those are the angles. If you're on the Dorito side looking snake way, oh, and the Aztec, excuse me. You obviously can challenge the Aztec here as well. But if you do the same thing, again, Aztec is visible. You can also shoot the snake side tower if he's playing loose. I think the best chance you have at killing that guy is if he's like playing sloppy when he's wrapping or looking on the inside of the field. And then you do have a shot onto the snake as well. This guy. Again, he has a shot onto you. You have a shot onto him. I think his shot's stronger. This is a hard angle to get to, but it is there. It's a hard angle to get to because you kind of have to play in the open, and then you have to kind of like lay this way to see that. There's no way. I don't think there's any way you can get into this spot with your back to the Doritos and then find this shot. You'd have to be pretty small because otherwise your butt's just like exposed. You're just super, super exposed. So again, what I'm saying is I think that you have to like lay down looking this way, and this is your back right here, to find that shot versus you getting here where your back is over here and you're looking this way. I think you die if you do this unless you're really small. Couldn't you bounce? Let's see. Couldn't you bounce on the right edge of cake? Yes, that's also an option, right? So anytime that you can't actually see the snake, you can definitely shoot these spots right here. That's always an option. Your chances of killing them are, I mean, if you're in the tower, you probably have a little bit, maybe an okay-ish chance at stopping them, a little bit better than if you're in the cake. If you're in this cake, I wouldn't shoot that shot. I would just, because you're going to bounce them harsher. You're going to bounce them this way more. I would just shoot this spot right here. The one thing we haven't looked at, though, is what if there are any solid bounce shots on those pins into the X. So let's take a look at that really quick, and then let's see. So your first bounce shot where you can't see the X and they can't see you unless they go here is this right here. So the question is that an actual threatening bounce? I think so. I don't know. What do you guys think? I can't draw the other line because the X is hit like hitbox or whatever you want to call it. It's too big. I actually think that's a pretty decent shot. I think you actually have a pretty solid chance at killing somebody in that situation. So snake is high risk, high reward. Well, so yeah, high reward if you're not matched. But yeah, it's definitely high risk to get into it off the break for sure. So I think what you'll find is that teams take it a lot early into the tournament, and then they start to pull back as teams stop missing. And then the real tournament starts, in my opinion, where the way in which you get into the snake, the two-man operations to put someone in to get them into the snake is who's going to win those games, right? But I think at the beginning it's going to be like, if I get into the snake and they don't, and there's no way for them to get into the snake, then we just win. But you always have to remember, this is making the assumption that the other team that doesn't have a snake player, or rather that does have the snake player, does a good job of keeping the other team out of the snake, which oftentimes doesn't happen, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Trying to shoot under the X will be really hard. Yeah, I would imagine so as well. Can you say how the route from break to snake wedge past the juice box would look like? On I kind of went over that already. The wedge. I assume. Are you talking about this inside one? Because these are the wedges. These middle ones. You're not talking about this, right? Are you saying if I go up to the wedge and shoot? I'm not sure if you're talking about the snake runner or the snake shooter. So let me know and I'll answer that. Used to do it all the time and shot a ton of people filling out. It looks like a decent bounce for sure. It looks like a... Oh, you said that. Could snake X wrap and bounce the W into the big X? Let's see. Could snake X wrap and bounce the W into the big X? The W into the big X. Okay, so you're talking about... Are you talking about this? Shooting right here? You gotta be... I think you might be talking about something else. Let's see. Oh, this one. Ooh, hey, hey. We got an interesting route here, boys. That's definitely a bounce. That's a hard yes to a bounce, for sure. That's a solid bounce. I mean, I wouldn't shoot this. I don't know if that's what you were talking about. There's the mini wall there, but I would just shoot the pin. That's a solid bounce shot right there. It's from corners. That means that it's also there on the Dorito side as well. So if you are in the corner, which is a much safer corner to be wrapping on, this is a really, really solid bounce shot. It has to be super solid. Yeah, dude, that's money. that is insane. Going right there. Snake front to snake one. Okay, I'll look at that in a second. Are you talking? Okay, well, you may not be, but I'm not sure what you mean by snake front. So just if you can tell me the positions, what I'm calling this is snake 1, 2, and 3. This is a mini wall. You can call it mini W if you want. I'll understand what you're talking about. Obviously, this is the big X. So let me know what you were referring to, and I'll take a look at it here in a second. Obviously, I think at this point, like if he's on the Dorito side, that is something else too. If the guy's on the Dorito side, you actually might be able to bounce off of this into him as well. Maybe. Not so sure. That's a pretty far shot. So that'd have to, you know, you could definitely shoot for it, but let's see. Kevin, I'll take a look at that in just a second. It bounces in even from the middle wedge to stop the middle two bouncing off the pins. Oh, really? Yeah, there you go. You shot this as well, is what you're saying? It goes that way as somebody's trying to go up to the middle, I think. Behind juice box. Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look at that in a second. I think he means corner. Wrapping it hard, but paint is already coming from the middle wedge, already shooting the snake lane. I meant breakout path to snake one past behind the juice box. Oh, okay. So yeah, we looked at that. I'll look at it one more time and then I think we're done here. So if I were to take this route, so again, my first real concern to be shot is this spot right here, which somebody would have to be playing in the dead zone off the break. So that's definitely there. And then if I take this route in front of the corner and behind the juice box, if he steps up into the wedge, this is definitely a concern. And then anybody obviously playing this spot or anybody playing the dead zone. So three real serious threats. I don't think anybody's going to be in this spot shooting at you prior. It might be that they run baseline and shoot, but I think if you're going to get shot from anybody, it's going to be in the dead zone and it's going to be coming from here. So there's definitely tons of angles to shoot you from. The advantage, however, is that if you slide wide, you can actually come out here and you're pretty safe, again, with the exception of somebody who's mirrored to you from the snake. But if you slide wide, you definitely can get up into this bunker relatively safe. If you go out to the corner, just out of curiosity, if you go out to the corner and do the same thing and slide, you're a little too far, because otherwise you could go here. It's just that the wedge is going to drop over the top shooting for you. And I don't think you can slide fast and wide enough to not run out of bounds, because I was going to say, if you could slide like right here, you're golden again, with the exception of the guy heads up, but you're going to be out of bounds. There's just no way. So hopefully that was the route you were looking at, but I meant breakout. Okay, cool. All right, that's it. We've streamed for who knows, doesn't matter. But for those of you who are playing in the tournament this weekend, that's what I meant. Past the juice box, it seemed pretty risky, but a low slide would fix it as well. Definitely, yeah. I think so. I think if you go here, it's actually going to be okay-ish, because you're going to be using the mini wall in the center of the field to block out the wedge. Again, the biggest concern is this dead zone guy, who's going to have so many shots onto you. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. For those of you who are going to be at the WCPPL this weekend, be sure to stop and say hi. I always appreciate it. I should be doing a lot of commentary this weekend on Field 1. So don't worry about it. I mean, obviously, if I'm commentating right then and there, you can't interrupt me. But in between stuff, feel free to stop, say hi, tell me your name, your Discord name, your chat name, whatever the case is, and I will be sure to say something. So, okay, safe travels. See you guys there. Have a good one.